Jesus also said, "The kingdom of God is as if someone would scatter seed on the ground, and would sleep and rise night and day. And the seed would sprout and grow, he does not know how. The earth produces of itself, first the stalk, then the head, then the full grain in the head. But when the grain is ripe, at once he goes in with his sickle, because the harvest has come." He also said, "With what can we compare the kingdom of God, or what parable will we use for it? It is like a mustard seed, which when sown upon the ground is the smallest of all the seeds on earth. Yet when it is sown, it grows up and becomes the greatest of all shrubs, and puts forth large branches so that the birds of the air can make nests in its shade." With many such parables he spoke the word to them, as they were able to hear it. He did not speak to them except in parables, but he explained everything in private to his disciples. And the epistle lesson is from the book of Romans, chapter 8, verses 18 through 24. "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to corruption and obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation has been groaning together in the pains of childbirth until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for adoption as sons, the redemption of our bodies. For in this hope we are saved.
May God bless the reading of this holy word. Thanks be to God. Thanks be to God. Indeed, this morning we're beginning a 5-week series for the season of creation. This week we take a look at the earth, or at least the imagery of the earth as it pertains to our faith and our responsibility as Christian people. The Eastern Orthodox Church begins their season, their year, this time of year, and they begin that with a time of commemorating the earth. And 10 years ago, the World Council of Churches adopted this suggestion that we would, in the life of the churches, dedicate a time to give thanks for and celebrate the earth. And some of you are thinking, nah, maybe not. We're here to worship the Creator, worship God and Jesus. Well, yes. The Creator of creation, the giver of life and the beauty of it all. So this week we are honoring the earth, the ground on which we stand, the forests, the mountains, the parks, the trees, the rocks, the vines, the fields, the seeds and parks and farms where harvest is real. Those seasons are real, and the gardens where our Bible story begins and ends, where Jesus prays and then reveals his very real risen self to Mary Magdalene. Throughout the Bible, agricultural metaphors are scattered like seeds, where the Lord of harvest tends to olive trees, branches, and vines, and the text reminds us of the importance of new wineskins that will carry a new message to the people, a message that is relevant for the age, a message that is life-giving, a message that is appropriate to time. Because before bulldozers and backhoes, before crops could be modified and rain could be pre-programmed, the ground and the life and the crop and the harvest was their life. And the people were dependent upon know that for many reasons, creation is groaning still. But nature has always been a voice of God, revealing God's self to us in the beauty and in the chaos, in the sunlight and in the storms. We realize who's in charge, don't we? Not us, but God, the creator of it all, the giver of the beauty, as if it was designed to remind us not only who's in charge, but who is the giver of the gift. So, nature has something to tell us about life and about God, maybe about ourselves. Nature becomes a symbol because we can see it, apply it, watch the seasons change, and remember Easter and the gift of new life. Remember Lent through those seasons of dry, dark, prickly wilderness. And we go through that too. Through the wilderness to opportunities for new possibilities and new hope at Easter. Right? Nature is a sign and a symbol of our lives that we can see and observe and give thanks for. And remember the Creator, who is God. Soon the leaves will fall and the landscape will change. Then it will freeze until it sprouts anew. Do we decide when all that happens? No, we don't. We wait upon the Lord. We watch and we believe in the promise that new life will spring up, not only from the earth, and some actually say that's an oversimplified message. I don't know. Sometimes we're a little thick-headed, and we need to keep it simple. To look at the ground and look at the earth and look around and give thanks for it all. The little things that we can see, that bear witness to God's goodness and bear witness to new life always. And you know, I think that perhaps Paul Tillich was right. Paul Tillich, a more contemporary theologian, who talked about symbols and signs and God, and talked about God as the ground of our being, the ground of being itself, because he rejected the idea of God as a presence or a being, because God is the source of being. We talk about God as love, and God is that source of love. And God is the source and ground of our being. That means that we are alive in God's presence. We are alive, and that God is closer than any of us can even imagine. The ground of our being. Another reason why Paul Tillich likes that imagery, because it cannot be denied. We spend a lot of time trying to prove God's existence, right? The very real presence of God. We feel it, but we can't prove it. We can't describe it fully and wholly, and that is precisely the point. That God is God beyond God. That all our symbolism points to God. But if God is the ground of being itself, life, new life, life eternal, then God cannot be denied. Our aliveness cannot be denied. Our gardens and our vegetables and our crops cannot be denied. We watch them grow. We know they're good food. The smell of the flowers and the beauty we see. Food for the soul, for life and new life. And life that is there are two trees planted in the garden in the creation story, right? We usually only focus on one. Which one? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But it's not alone, right? Set next to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, where all the separation and evil-natured people sort of get their beginnings, is the tree of life. It sits next to the knowledge of good and evil. And one Kabbalist teacher says, you will notice that it is not the tree of life and death. It is the tree of life. Because God is the ground, the being itself, the force, the pulse of life. You are alive in God. You are alive in Christ. Claim that. Connect to that. And the tree of life, that is life everlasting. We don't know how. We don't know what it looks like. We just know that it is. Be it energetic or pearly gates and St. Peter. Whatever it is. Somehow it's real. Because God is the ground of life. Throughout the scriptures, the tree of life is talked about. The tree of life is mentioned in Proverbs. There it is wisdom. It is right speaking. It is quality of life. This tree that we see here. And then it shows up again in the book of Revelation, where that same tree still stands. It waters both sides of the river. It produces 12 fruits. And it is for the healing of the nations. All of that. So we realize that if we're grounded in God, so are they. If we're grounded in God, all can be fed, all can receive of that flowing fountain, all can be a part of the tree of life. Paul uses the imagery when he's grafting in the Gentiles as they remember their roots in Judaism. We remember that we are all from the same tree, Isaac and Ishmael, right? Judaism and Islam, all connected to the ground of our being alive. And so as we gather today to give thanks for the earth, the solid ground and rock on which we stand, so many metaphors scattered like seed that remind us of growth and green. I think the gospel is green. Because it gives life always. We suffer through seasons of wilderness and pain and struggle. Doubt about God, doubt about the reality of new life. And yet, time and time and time again, we are bearing witness to the gift of life and the miracles that we have and that we see. And so, this morning, you're going to have an opportunity to plant and participate in creation. This morning you're going to have an opportunity to sow a seed into the ground, and that seed is one of the sunflower, who not unlike the people of old know their dependence upon the light. The sunflower who is constantly turning its face to soak up and in of the sun, just like we are wired, not only to be grounded, but to look and face the sun. The light of the Spirit, the light who is Christ, the light rather than darkness. purpose, the wisdom that brings us into more gray and brown areas, gray and brown like the dirt, that remind us from dust we have come and to dust we will return, but energetically we are still here. Before you are two vessels, seeds and dirt. How many of you played in the dirt before cell phones? Come on. Remember where the dirt was? Springsteen on Broadway talks about the dirt by his tree in front of his home where he grew up, and a recent visit when he went back and the tree is gone. Whereas G.I. Joes used to hide under the web of roots in the ground. The dirt I played in was under my grandmother's porch, and that house still stands. When we drive by and wonder how we fit all of us under there. So I'm inviting you to the ground, to the dirt, to get dirty because you're alive, to connect to the ground of your being and mine, to theirs and ours. Plant a sunflower seed. Plant a prayer. Know that you are a part of the future and that something is growing in God. Come forward this morning and sow a seed. I think we'll pass the offering plate, and then once you've the plate has passed you, come up in time and sow your seed this morning. Be a part of the gift of